Imagine being trapped in a prison, but not just any prison. This one has no bars or locks. The only escape door is in your mind. Jake believed freedom was out there, in a physical escape. He didn't realize that the real prison was much closer than he had imagined. What we'll uncover today isn't just the story of a prisoner, it's a journey into the heart of what keeps us trapped, our own fears, beliefs, and limitations. Are you ready to break the chains that exist only in your mind? Jake is a man who, after being convicted of a crime, is serving a 20-year sentence in a prison located in an old castle, one of the most secure prisons in existence. Although Jake is highly intelligent, he is also troublesome and frequently violent. This combination led him to commit actions that landed him behind bars. From the moment he arrived at the castle, he began causing trouble, which led to him being placed in solitary confinement several times. Despite the punishments, his attitude never changed, and it began to influence other prisoners, who started adopting similar behavior. The prison governor, a cold and calculating man who knows how to manipulate the emotions and desires of the prisoners to maintain order, decided to intervene to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. One afternoon, he visited Jake's cell with a strange proposal that left Jake both confused and hopeful. The offer was this: if Jake managed to escape the prison within a year, no one would pursue him, and he would be completely free. However, to make the deal valid, Jake would need to stop his troublesome behavior and follow the prison's rules. If he continued his rebellious ways, the deal would be void. Jake immediately agreed, convinced he was clever enough to find a way out. With the agreement in place, the governor left the cell, closing the door behind him. Determined to gain his freedom, Jake began working on his escape plan. He realized the castle's walls were made of solid rock, but the mortar holding them together, while firm, could be removed with patience and effort. Without anyone noticing, he managed to collect a few knives and spoons during mealtime. To avoid detection, he moved his small cot and started removing the mortar of the rocks. At the end of each day, he would replace the cot in its original position so the guards wouldn't suspect anything. After many days of work, he finally managed to dislodge the first rock and, to his relief, discovered it led to a narrow, dark tunnel. This gave him the chance to continue working without risking detection from the other side. It took him several months to create a hole large enough to crawl through. He took a pillowcase and filled it with the mortar he had removed from between the rocks, as he wanted to mark the path, in case he couldn't find an exit and needed to return to the cell. As he advanced through the tunnel, he soon realized it led him into a maze that seemed endless. He wandered for a long time until he finally came across a set of stairs that led to a rock wall sealing off the area. Perhaps there had once been a door there, but for some reason, it was now blocked. Still, this discovery gave him new hope. He thought that sealed wall could be the key to his escape, the final step toward freedom. Jake returned to his cell and decided to keep working on that spot in the tunnel every night. When he successfully moved the first stone, he found that the hole led to a dark room. Seeing no one there, he assumed it was a service room with no security, from which he could escape unnoticed. To avoid suspicion, he would always replace the stones once he finished working, trusting that when the time came, he could easily remove them again. This task, too, took several months. The stones were firmly lodged in place, and he had to work in the dark, as visibility in the tunnel was minimal. When he finally managed to create a hole large enough, he removed the stones and entered the dark room, feeling that freedom was within his grasp. However, as he explored the room, he made a discovery that took his breath away and crushed his hopes. He was back in his cell. The maze and the stairs had led him right back to the small space where he had been confined for months. Defeated, he sat on his cot, now hopeless about escaping. The next morning, the governor arrived at Jake's cell and noticed the holes in the walls. In his frustration, Jake hadn't bothered to hide them. Instead of getting angry, the governor smiled and, staring at Jake, said, "The path to freedom was always much closer than you imagined, but your confused mind chose a difficult path that would never lead anywhere. The decisions you made with that confused mind are what brought you here, and now they are the very thing that prevents you from being free. Only when you see clearly all the opportunities before you will you truly be free. You now have many years ahead of you in this place to clear your mind. Jake stared at him, not understanding a word of what he was saying. Sensing Jake's confusion, the governor continued. When I left this cell, I didn't lock the door. The guards didn't lock it either, for all these months. To leave, you only had to push the door. No one would have stopped you. With that, the governor left the cell, leaving Jake stunned and sitting on his cot, as he heard the door being locked behind him. This story invites us to reflect on a crucial aspect of personal growth. The most limiting prison is not always the one we see with our eyes, but the one we carry inside our minds. Jake, the protagonist, not only faces the physical walls of a prison, but is also trapped in a mental labyrinth fueled by his anxieties, fears, and a distorted vision of freedom. His journey reminds us that the real prison we are confined to is often not the one imposed by external circumstances, but the one shaped by our own perceptions, beliefs, and thoughts. As human beings, we naturally seek freedom through external changes, switching jobs, moving to a new place, or leaving a relationship. But true liberation does not depend on these external factors. The lesson Jake's story offers is that the first step toward freedom is freeing ourselves from the mental chains we impose on ourselves. The mind, with its fears and limiting beliefs, can build invisible walls that keep us prisoners, long after our external circumstances have changed. The metaphor of the labyrinth that Jake explores is powerful. It represents not just a physical challenge, but a map of his mind, filled with thoughts and emotions that confuse him, leading him back to his cell. This illustrates that, no matter how much we seek solutions outside ourselves, as long as we do not change our perception of the world, we will remain trapped in our own mental limitations. The key to personal growth lies not in escaping our external situation, but in transforming our perception of it and learning to manage our thoughts and emotions in order to find peace and freedom. Moreover, this story challenges us to rethink our understanding of freedom. Is freedom only the absence of physical barriers, or does it also encompass the ability to master our minds and emotions? According to the story, true freedom is not about running away, but about recognizing that the doors we believe are closed have always been open. It invites us to understand that what keeps us imprisoned is not our environment, but our own way of perceiving and responding to it. On the path of personal growth, it is essential to examine our beliefs and the fears that limit us. Only when we realize that the real prison is in our minds can we begin to break those chains and open the doors to a freer, fuller life. True freedom lies in our ability to see the world differently and to free our minds from the limiting constructs we have accepted without question. If this story resonated with you, we'd be thrilled if you liked and subscribed. Join our community so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories and reflections. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for being here, and we can't wait to share more inspiring moments with you next time.